Kim Jong Un, like all other dictators in the world, is a lonely man. Sure, he's surrounded by generals, advisors, and fawning yes-men, but none of those are true buddies to grab a drink with or play video games. You know, heavy is the head who wears the crown. Supreme power tends to be a lonely gig. Imagine being a 40-some, relatively young dictator whose hobbies include firing missiles, yet you have no one to cheer without them saluting you first. In the surreal court of Pyongyang, a circus of backstabbing knives, trust is scarce, and everyone is an actor on the edge. The supreme leader, despite his cult of personality, might just be seeking a genuine connection, or at least one quasi-genuine friend who won't immediately get him killed or overthrow the kingdom. So, here is your opportunity. The only question is, how to become the best friend of the supreme leader of North Korea. You must provide companionship, entertainment, and strategic value in a court where slipping on a banana peel can be a capital offense. During this career, you must navigate absurd luxury and lethal whimsy with a straight face. This high-risk job comes with extraordinary benefits. You may enjoy gourmet dinners, premium parade seats, and intimate photo ops with the leader that everybody else can only dream of. If you think you're ready and qualified, let's walk through the step-by-step guide of how a few unique souls manage to become dear leader's best homies and live to tell about it. We'll examine 4 methods for best buddying a dictator, gleaned from real-life cases that have been proven successful. From a harmless, petite Japanese sushi chef to a flamboyant ex-NBA star who accidentally became a goodwill ambassador. From an elderly Nobel Peace Prize laureate who schmoozed his way into the kingdom to the ultimate cheat code. Each method comes with its own perks, pitfalls, and insights. But before we begin, a sincere thank you to every member who supports this channel. You are our loyal best buddies who keep this channel running. If you haven't joined us yet, please consider so. Together, we will build this channel into a socialist paradise. All right now, grab your notepad and perhaps a bulletproof vest. Let's dive in.
He says he was a mere sushi chef from Japan who would be invited to Kim Jong Il's private parties and drink with him. He would ask me, "Do you like me?" I would tell him I love him and kiss his cheek. The two men shared a passion for fine food, and while many North Koreans were starving, Kim Jong Il would send Fujimoto around the world.
To befriend the supreme leader, the numero uno is, don't be threatening in any sense. Look at Kenji Fujimoto, a 5-foot-something Japanese sushi chef who rose from chopping fish to galloping alongside the dear leader. Fujimoto's bizarre ascent is a masterclass in being short, fun, and useful. In the 1990s, Kenji was invited to North Korea to make sushi. Within a few years, he wasn't just a sushi specialty chef preparing the state banquets. He literally became Kim Jong Il's personal chef, as well as his court jester and sidekick. How did a humble chef become best homie to a paranoid dictator? The secret might be his height. You know, our dear leader is a man of fashion and self-esteem. But sadly, Kim Jong Il stood at roughly 5 feet 3. That's about 160 centimeters. And he was very aware of it. Now consider this. The average North Korean male is around 5 feet 5, and his dad, Kim Il-sung, stood at 5 feet 9. To make propaganda photo ops look better, Kim Jong Il's cameramen faced a unique challenge. Make the dear leader look taller without triggering his rage or revealing the truth. This was not art, this was optical survival. To overcome this national embarrassment, our leader wore platform shoes and styled his hair like an expanding mushroom cloud, presumably for vertical compensation. Photographers were banned from taking his picture from low angles, and if you obviously towered over Kim Jong-il, you were either quietly reassigned or simply never invited to dinner again. This brings us to Kenji Fujimoto, who was even shorter than the dear leader. This makes him an ideal companion. He absolutely helps Kim Jong-il to stay confident during the late-night parties. Besides, another key to Fujimoto's survival was linguistic incompetence. He didn't speak Korean but only Japanese, which, in most courts, would be a crippling disadvantage. But in Pyongyang, it worked in his favor by being non-comprehending. He couldn't eavesdrop on private conversations. He couldn't report palace gossip. He couldn't accidentally overhear who was being purged that week and ask follow-up questions like, "Wait, where did General Kang go?" Instead, he just smiled, nodded, and focused on slicing tuna. And if the room suddenly fell silent, he assumed it was about the wasabi, not the regime's internal bloodletting, unless his interpreter told him so.
But while in Pyongyang, Fujimoto spent time with the young Kim Jong Un, who he described in his 2003 memoir, after defecting to Japan, as a chip off the old block, believing this teenager would one day succeed his father.
Conveniently, many senior figures around Kim Jong-il could speak Japanese, including Ko Yong-hui, Kim Jong Un's mother, who was born and grew up in Osaka, Japan. For Kim Jong-il, that was ideal. Every other person in his life had to be watched, tested, and doubted. But Kenji the shorty? The guy literally didn't know what was going on, and that made him safe. Further, Fujimoto's capitalist background made him a very useful and capable man in the world of socialist hillbillies. For real, in a country where most people had never heard of the Playboy magazine, let alone a pair of Ray-Bans, Fujimoto showed up with profound knowledge of Suntory whiskey, golf course designs, and jet ski maneuvering. He knew how to make a dry martini, how to shop in Shibuya, and how to flirt with a hostess without triggering an execution. These might seem normal in Tokyo, but were extremely rare and powerful skills in Pyongyang. So, Fujimoto checked all the boxes. He was physically unimposing. He was entertaining as a foreigner with jokes and novelty value. Ask yourself, who else could source fresh sushi in a land of kimchi? He fed Kim's obsession with gourmet cuisine and global luxuries. If the dear leader craved something, Fujimoto got it delivered to his palace, no questions asked. Need fresh caviar from Iran or pork from Denmark? Agent Fujimoto was on the plane. Kim Jong-il wants to enjoy a Big Mac in Pyongyang. Fujimoto flew to Beijing for a bag of cheeseburgers. This Japanese chef became the ultimate concierge to a dictator's appetite, circling the globe for Chinese melons, Iranian caviar, Thai papayas, whatever His Excellency desired. And for his troubles, Fujimoto was paid handsomely and was allowed to tag along on Kim's wild adventures. The man earned over $50,000 a year back then. That's over $250,000 today's money, adjusted after inflation. You see, Fujimoto didn't just toil in the kitchen. He was invited into Kim's private life, a realm equal parts playground and minefield. The tiny chef and the diminutive dictator went on playdates, riding white stallions together, shooting guns, even water skiing at Kim's private island. Picture this surreal scene: the portly dear leader in a battle suit and his signature sunglasses, racing on horseback alongside his little Japanese chef in a land deeply believed in the myth of Chun-Li-Ma. At barely mid-height and with zero ambitions beyond slicing tuna, he was someone Kim could genuinely relax around. Fujimoto even became a sort of man-child companion to Kim's family. He later revealed he acted as a playmate to Kim's young son, Kim Jong Un, from age 7 to 18. When you're literally the guy's childhood play pal and favorite cook, you've cemented your spot in the inner circle. Being two supreme leaders' friend, of course, came with hazards that would make any normal person's hair stand on end. Fujimoto got a front-row seat to the regime's decadent depravity. He attended multi-day banquets that lasted up to 4 days straight, with an endless cycle of eating, drinking, dancing, and trying not to pass out while your boss tests your limits of Hennessy cognac. He witnessed what he dubbed the pleasure squad. When young women who would sing and dance for Kim, sometimes stripping nude for the dear leader's amusement, while terrified officials could only watch and keep their hands politely clasped. Beyond the loyalty test, Fujimoto had to party hard to keep up with the big man. During one legendary bender, he guzzled so much expensive liquor at Kim's table that he blacked out. When he woke up, Fujimoto discovered the supreme leader's sense of humor is as twisted as advertised. His nether regions had been clean-shaven as a prank. Yes, that actually happened. Being a dictator's BFF means risking life, limb, and pubic hair for the cause. All this, Kenji endured with a forced smile and a deep bow. In the brutal logic of Pyongyang, a happy tyrant is a generous tyrant, and an unhappy tyrant might feed you to some Pungsan dogs. Fujimoto played his role as an expert. He laughed at Kim's jokes, joined him in late-night karaoke, danced along with Kim's favorite disco tunes, and proved himself a harmless clown who made the dear leader feel clever and tall by comparison. At parties, Fujimoto would don silly wigs with just enough foolishness to amuse Kim, but not so much as to annoy him. The key is to be the life of the party, but never outshine the host. Fujimoto's small stature and big personality struck that balance. In return, he enjoyed incredible privilege. Fujimoto said the palaces were decorated with cold marble, silver-braided bedspreads, ice-purple paintings of Kim Il-sung blossoms, and ceilings airbrushed with the cranapple mist of sunset, as if Liberace's jet had crashed into Lenin's tomb. Kim even entrusted him to travel abroad to fetch luxury goods. The little chef, a nobody from Japan, found himself wearing custom suits, smoking Cuban cigars, and living a life of Bond villain excess, all as the dear leader's pet chef and confidant. It's like a twisted fairy tale, the cook and the dictator. Yet, Kenji Fujimoto never forgot that anyone's friendship with the boss was conditional. He watched, one by one, the people around Kim disappeared. Ministers, generals, even family members could vanish overnight if they annoyed the leader. Fujimoto knew it could happen to him too. In 2001, sensing his luck might run out, he fled North Korea during his shopping trip and defected to Japan. For years, he lived in hiding, wearing disguises on TV interviews, fearing North Korean agents might assassinate him for knowing and telling too much. But remarkably, a decade later, the little boy he once babysat, the newly enthroned supreme leader Kim Jong Un, invited Fujimoto back to Pyongyang, dangling the promise of safe passage if he would visit as a friend. Kim Jr. even made a playful promise. How about we go horseback riding together again, like those days when we were intimate playmates? And you know what? Fujimoto did go back. Perhaps good memories, some curiosity, and the lack of money persuade him to do so. He returned, shared a joyful reunion with Kim Jong Un, and even opened a premium Japanese restaurant in Pyongyang in 2017. Some might call that crazy. Others might say Fujimoto knew that once you're the dear leader's homie, you can never get out of the game. Here is your takeaway. If you want to be Kim's best bud, Be the lovable fool who can't possibly threaten his throne. Keep him well fed, entertained, and always let him feel superior. Fujimoto's life reads like a dark comedy, part Babysitter's Club, part Fear and Loathing in Pyongyang. But it worked. This is route number 1. Be short, fun, useful, and you might just ride a white horse into the sunset of camaraderie with a dictator. Just keep an eye on your pubic hair when partying hard.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Drama and controversy never seem to elude Dennis Rodman. This week, the retired basketball star paid a visit to North Korea. It gets stranger. Today, the Worm, as he was known during his career, hit a political talk show to defend the trip to the Hermit Kingdom. And as Mike Armstrong reports, Rodman appears to be playing Diplomat.
If sports and entertainment value are your unparalleled strength, you might try the Dennis Rodman method. Yes, that Dennis Rodman. The 6'7" former NBA rebounding champion with facial piercings, technicolor hair, and a personality as subtle as a flamethrower. As one of history's weirdest bromances, Rodman became Kim Jong Un's unlikely friend by basically being himself. Famous, flamboyant, and utterly apolitical. In 2013, Rodman waltzed into Pyongyang like it was an episode of a reality TV show. He arrived with a few of his colleagues and a Vice media crew for documentary shooting. The young Kim is a lifelong basketball fanatic and was exceedingly thrilled for the show. Here was a genuine American sports hero in the flesh, treating Kim not as a tyrant to be feared, but as a fellow dude to hang out with. It was a feeling of BFF at first sight. Kim Jong Un, stocky and in a blue Mao suit, grinning ear to ear at a packed stadium, sitting knee to knee with Rodman, who was decked out in sunglasses indoors, nose rings glinting, tattoos on full display. In front of them, the Harlem Globetrotters are performing trick shots with North Korean players. The crowd is clapping along to American funk music, and Supreme Leader Kim is enjoying himself, actually laughing and slapping the table like a kid watching a circus. During a break in the game, Rodman stood up, took a microphone, and announced to Kim and the crowd, "You have a friend for life."
And the country, you have a friend for life? Sir, thank you. You have a friend for life.
Yes, those exact words. The tattooed ex-Chicago Bull effectively declared a lifelong bromance with North Korea's new ruler, to cheers and applause. Kim, by all accounts, loved it. Here was a world-famous athlete treating him like a real pal, not a pariah. Rodman had zero filter and zero fear. He, unlike all other high-profile Americans who visited the kingdom, wasn't there to discuss human rights or missile tests. He was there to have a good time. Where Fujimoto was a low-key jester at home, Rodman was an over-the-top jester on the global stage. Kim used Rodman's visit as propaganda gold. State media showed the supreme leader laughing alongside an American sports legend, suggesting that, hey, we're not so isolated after all. Look, even those NBA superstars party with us. It was a domestic and international image win for Kim Jong Un, who once again grabbed all of our international attention. Similarly, not just money, Rodman got something valuable too: relevance and clout. He was back in headlines worldwide, not for rehab or tabloid drama, but for a bizarre new chapter as an all-American goodwill ambassador to North Korea. In a way, he stumbled into diplomacy by way of a bromance. Over several visits, Rodman's antics only grew more surreal. He brought other retired NBA players to Pyongyang to play exhibition games for Kim's amusement. At one such game in January 2014, which was deliberately held on Kim's birthday, Rodman led the crowd in serenading Kim with a raspy rendition of Happy Birthday, while Kim waved from the stands. Think about it, an American sports celebrity singing Happy Birthday to a brutal dictator in front of thousands of disciplined North Korean spectators. The stadium audience, likely coached to cheer, was treated to the sight of their supreme leader's eccentric foreign friend, crooning like it's a Vegas show. Kim, delighted, gave Rodman a standing ovation. It was reality TV diplomacy at its finest. For us, Rodman proved another way to befriend a dictator. He was Kim's easy friend because he asked for nothing and served as a useful idiot of sorts. He was so apolitical and uninhibited that Kim could genuinely relax around him without fear of any moral lecture. By Rodman's own accounts, the two bonded over their mutual love of basketball and vodka. They talked, partied, rode horses, sang karaoke, whatever the little boss Kim wanted. Rodman later gushed in interviews that Kim was a cool and pretty nice guy, not the mad villain the Western media mistakenly portrayed. This, of course, is Rodman's perspective after being pampered in Pyongyang's bubble. He famously lost his cool on a live CNN interview when pressed about North Korea's human rights abuses, yelling incoherently in defense of Kim.
If you understand, I got it. If you understand what Kid Bay did,
yeah.
Do you understand what he did?
What did he do? You tell me.
Country.
You tell me. What did he do?
And no. You tell me. You tell me. Why is he held captive?
They haven't released any charges. They haven't released. They haven't released any reason.
Listen. Let me do this.
It was a moment that showed just how much he had bought into the best friend for life role. For Kim, having a brash American sportsman publicly call him a good guy was just priceless. Rodman basically said what North Korean propaganda has claimed for decades, but with the credibility of a goofy outsider. No wonder Kim kept inviting him back. He is a 6'7" black American with face piercings and fluorescent hair, striding through a country where everyone wears monotone uniforms and reverently gazes at a portrait of Kim's grandfather. He stuck out like a Martian, and Kim liked that. It was as if Kim had his own pet exotic creature to show off. State media dutifully reported on Comrade Rodman's visits, spinning it as proof that even Americans respect the supreme leader. At banquets, Rodman joined Kim in raising toast after toast, knocking back expensive liquor. Rodman got his dreamlike royal treatment: fine dining, front row seats to grand performances, and the kind of hero's welcome normally reserved for heads of state. In return, all he had to do was be his larger-than-life self and never, ever criticize his host. Rodman is not known for his tact, and this actually served him well with Kim, who likely found his candidness refreshing compared to his own people's scripted flatteries. Rodman would say outrageous things with no regard for protocol, and Kim would laugh or shrug it off. For instance, at one private gathering, Rodman casually suggested Kim might like to shoot some hoops together sometime. Can you imagine any North Korean official daring to invite the marshal to play a game? Unthinkable. But Rodman asks with a grin, and Kim, charmed, perhaps even considered it. Rodman also made offhand requests, like urging Kim to do him a solid and release an American prisoner. He literally tweeted at Kim Jong Un to free a detained American missionary as a personal favor. But of course, Kim didn't immediately free the prisoner for Rodman, but the sheer absurdity of that ask shows Rodman's bold cluelessness. In Kim's eyes, this was fine. Rodman wasn't judging him, but defended him as his best buddy. A friend who ardently takes your side, even when you're objectively doing nasty stuff, is the kind of friend a dictator loves. By being famous without a filter, Rodman achieved what seasoned diplomats could not. Well, it's doubtful they ever talked about geopolitics, but surely they were too busy discussing NBA stats and smoking cigars on Kim's yacht. Rodman opened a unique diplomatic channel. He later became a quirky footnote in US-North Korea relations, showing up in Singapore in 2018 during the Trump-Kim summit, crying on camera about how happy he was to see his two friends, Kim and Trump, finally meet. He wore a MAGA hat and a t-shirt advertising a cryptocurrency, and gave an emotional interview about receiving death threats for befriending Kim. It was bizarre and oddly moving. Say what you will, but Rodman's bromance diplomacy was earnest in its own weird way. So, takeaway numero dos. If you're already a celebrity or a character who can bring entertainment and global attention, leverage that. Be flashy enough to catch Kim's eye. Be shamelessly adoring, and leave your moral compass at the DMZ. A reality TV vibe is actually a plus. The more surreal, the better. Kim Jong Un enjoyed Rodman like one enjoys a wild pet, lizard of sorts, with amusement and just enough affection. In return, Rodman got unforgettable experiences and a genuine friendship in his heart. It's one path to becoming the supreme leader's favorite foreign clown. Just remember, once the show's over, you'll be sent home. You'll have a friend for life, sure, but it's a life he controls every aspect of. Still, for those craving the spotlight, the Rodman saga proves even a loudmouth athlete can become the dictator's best pal.
I personally believe that the crisis is over, and I personally believe that Kim Il-sung wants to be sure that the crisis is over. The next step, obviously, is to make sure that the agreements that were worked out between me and him are carried out.
Sometimes, the key to winning a tyrant's heart is respect. And who better to show respect than a seasoned former president bearing olive branches? Meet Jimmy Carter, a devout Southern Baptist, a peanut farmer, the 39th President of the United States. That's almost 50 years ago. And a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Just like Kim Il-sung, Jimmy Carter grew up in Sunday school and preached honesty and kindness. Yet, his presidency was often ridiculed as weak and a failure. In the late 70s, Americans grappling with gas lines, skyrocketing inflation, and an embarrassing 444-day hostage crisis grew disillusioned with Carter's earnest, Sermon on the Mount style of leadership. Voters found that this self-professed born-again Christian was too decent for the dirty Cold War. So, Carter lost his re-election in a landslide, leaving office as a practically failed president in the eyes of the public. It was a bitter end to a presidency that began with high hopes and Bible verses, only to be swamped by malaise. Yet Jimmy Carter refused to slink off into obscurity. He reinvented himself as America's best ex-president. He didn't just retire to a ranch to paint, but dedicated his life to decades of humanitarian and diplomatic work, with the zeal of a man making up for lost time. He built houses for the poor with Habitat for Humanity, flew off to monitor elections in unstable countries, negotiated ceasefires where sitting presidents couldn't, and even helped eradicate guinea worm disease in Africa. In 2002, he snagged a Nobel Peace Prize, Not bad for a guy once dismissed as a loser. At the very least, it makes President Trump jealous. Carter's mission in life became clear: promote peace, human rights, and health worldwide, all while swinging a hammer and teaching Sunday school on weekends. So, here comes the opportunity. In 1994, amid a tense nuclear standoff with North Korea, this grandfatherly figure volunteered to travel to Pyongyang on a rescue mission. Imagine this: a 70-year-old former US president, the same weak guy Americans booted out, arriving in the last Stalinist stronghold on Earth to patch up a nuclear crisis. It sounds like the setup to a bad sitcom, but what unfolded was a masterclass in soft power friendship. Carter's strategy was the polar opposite of, say, Dennis Rodman's bromance flair. Instead of loud flamboyance, Carter brought quiet dignity. He wasn't purposefully in Pyongyang to become besties with the great leader Kim Il-sung. Rather, he was there to show the respect due to an equal. From the moment Jimmy Carter stepped into that cavernous, marbled meeting hall in Pyongyang, he understood exactly what Kim Il-sung craved most: legitimacy and respect on the world stage. Here was a man who had dictated the kingdom since 1948, erecting statues of himself and demanding to be treated as a demigod, yet who obsessively yearned for recognition from the US. Carter gave him exactly what he hungered for. He addressed Kim cordially as Mr. President, not as a pariah or a villain. He listened, actually listened, to Kim's long, grievance-filled monologues about history, imperialism, and all the slights North Korea had suffered. Carter nodded along sympathetically, never once rolling his eyes or checking his watch. In doing so, Carter unlocked the old man's cooperative side as no one had seen before. That insight was Carter's ticket into Kim's good graces, and boy, did he ride it far. What followed in June 1994 was perhaps the unlikeliest bromance in geopolitical history. Picture two grandfathers from enemy nations, grinning and shaking hands warmly for the cameras. They sat down and disappeared for hours of candid conversation. Carter, famously folksy and disarming, probably complimented Kim's immaculate Mao suit or the over-the-top palace decor to break the ice. Kim, who was nearly 82 and not used to genuine flattery from Westerners, clearly relished having an audience of Carter's stature. After all, this was the first time a US leader of such rank had come personally to see him. North Korean media was overjoyed. Soon, photographs of Kim Il-sung laughing alongside a kindly-looking Carter splashed across the newspapers. The hospitality went both ways. In a surreal twist on diplomatic bonding, Kim Il-sung invited Jimmy and Rosalind Carter on an impromptu boat ride down the Taedong River. This was no humble fishing boat. It was an opulent vessel equipped with huge picture windows and even an all-glass elevator on board. There, floating along the river on that swanky yacht, the two old leaders sipped tea and continued their frank but friendly chats. After decades of isolation, he finally had an American of significance literally captive on his boat, listening to his every word. Carter later described Kim Il-sung as vigorous, alert, and in full command of facts and figures, despite his age. Essentially, a polite way to flatter Kim's intellect and vitality. Over those couple of days, Kim Il-sung made several astonishing promises. In Carter's presence, Kim agreed to freeze North Korea's nuclear program under international supervision. He said he would resume dialogue with South Korea, even entertaining the idea of a future North-South summit meeting, something that had been unthinkable for decades. He talked about steps to reduce military tensions, all in a calm, grandfatherly tone as Carter nodded encouragingly. These were major breakthroughs, achieved not by threats, sanctions, or saber-rattling, but by friendly persuasion and a heavy dose of mutual respect. Carter essentially played the role of the wise old mediator, and Kim responded like a star student eager to impress his favorite teacher. It was as if Carter's gentle grandfather act soothed Kim's paranoia and ego simultaneously. When the discussions wrapped up, Carter went on CNN via telephone from Kim's office and announced to the world that North Korea was willing to make peace. In one stroke, Carter became Kim's personal messenger to the West, conveying the North Korean position in the best possible light. For Kim, this was the ultimate gift. An American statesman telling the global media that North Korea wanted to be nice and reasonable. This move caught the Clinton administration off guard. Picture the White House staff doing spit takes with their coffee as a freelancing ex-president seemingly hijacked US foreign policy on live TV. Within months, Washington and Pyongyang signed the 1994 Agreed Framework, diffusing the nuclear crisis and averting a potential war. Kim Il-sung passed away just weeks after meeting Carter. By all accounts, he died a happy dictator, almost as if the relief and joy of finally getting that respect allowed him to go in peace. Carter didn't endorse Kim's brutal rule or give him actual aid on a silver platter. All he gave was a little respect, and that was enough to melt the ice. Fast forward to 2010, when Kim Il-sung was long gone, Carter visited Pyongyang again under the mission of negotiating the release of American prisoner Aijolon Gomez, who had served 8 years of hard labor for his misguided border crossing. In private, Carter conveyed an apology for Gomez's actions and courteously requested a special pardon. The North Koreans granted the pardon and promptly declared it a manifestation of North Korea's humanitarianism and peace-loving policy. In the end, Carter got what he came for. Gomez, gaunt but grateful, hugged Carter on the tarmac before they flew out of Pyongyang. As a parting token, Pyongyang offered a vague promise to resume six-party nuclear talks. That was its own kind of heroism. The 85-year-old ex-president was a good Samaritan, helping a stranger while the world moved on. So, method number 3. If you happen to be a respected ex-leader or dignitary itching to make nice with a dictator, the respectful statesman approach is clearly a winner. It requires swallowing your pride and addressing the tyrant with all the courtesy titles and polite listening you can muster. Treat him like an equal and flatter his intellect and ego. You must compliment his grasp of history or his lovely taste in luxury yachts. You should be confident that your past glory and prestige have made you fascinating to a regime obsessed with status and recognition. Remember, sometimes the quickest way to a tyrant's heart is through his ego in the most gentlemanly way. And one final ironic note. Carter's gentle approach may not have won him a second term, but it did help him to get some good karma. Decades later, Jimmy Carter quietly passed away in 2024 at the age of 100. He achieved a feat Kim Il-sung could only dream of, becoming a beloved, cardigan-wearing global icon who actually lived long enough to be a happy, respected old man. That is a legacy any dictator would envy.
And the North Koreans have suffered because the United States has done everything we possibly could to destroy the economy of North Korea. We've done everything we possibly could to boost the economy of South Korea. And then we condemn them because they are backward and because their people are starving.
For our final rule, we present the ultimate cheat code in the game of gaining the supreme leader's trust. Be his blood relative. Nothing beats family ties, right? Well, yes and no. In a regime where paranoia runs deep, being a relative can grant you unparalleled access or a first-class ticket to an unmarked grave. The trick is to emulate Kim Jong-chul, Kim Jong Un's little-known older brother, who has managed the incredible journey of staying alive, out of prison, and occasionally within arm's reach of his supreme sibling, all by being utterly harmless and apolitical. First, a bit about Kim Jong-chul. He is the middle son of Kim Jong-il and 3 years older than Kim Jong Un. In fact, according to our pal Kenji Fujimoto, the father deemed Jong-chul too effeminate and not leadership material. Ouch. Imagine being passed over because you're too chill. Thus, in the brutal family power stakes, Jong-chul's disinterest and gentle demeanor actually saved him. While the eldest brother, Kim Jong-nam, made the mistake of being outspoken and got exiled, and little brother Kim Jong-un was groomed as the ruthless heir, Kim Jong-chul just vibed in the background. He took on some minor roles in the regime, low to mid-level posts that kept him busy at something but never in the spotlight. Kim Jong-chul's approach to friendship with the supreme leader is essentially, be the non-threatening brother who's into the world of music, not politics. This guy is famously a die-hard Eric Clapton fan. Yes, while his younger brother was building nuclear warheads and issuing fiery threats, Jong-chul was jamming to 70s rock guitar solos. Throughout the years, Kim Jong-chul has been occasionally spotted abroad, incognito but clearly him, when he attended Eric Clapton concerts like any other fanboy. The man's dedication to slow hand knows no borders. In 2011, Jong-chul was seen in Singapore at a Clapton show. In 2015, he surfaced in London at the Royal Albert Hall to watch Clapton perform. The cool rock and roll prince was clad in a leather jacket and sunglasses and flanked by a few nervous North Korean bodyguards. He went 2 nights in a row, quietly applauding and enjoying himself, while trying but failing to avoid Japanese TV cameras. British paparazzi and media were stunned. The reclusive brother of Kim Jong Un, out in the wild, nodding along to Layla and Tears in Heaven.
Kim Jong-chul himself was a very good guitarist, I learned. I took him to music instruments streets in London, which is called Denmark Street, and he visited many guitar shops, and Kim Jong-chul even played guitar by himself. And even shop assistant was surprised at the level of his playing and asked him, whether he had any album or yes.
So what does this tell us? Kim Jong-chul has crafted an identity that is pointedly apolitical. He is the artsy, music-loving brother, not the scheming palace intriguer. You could say he self-neutered any threat he might pose. And Kim Jong-un apparently tolerates or even appreciates this. By some accounts, Kim Jong-un and Jong-chul have a decent fraternal relationship. Even though not super close, Kim Jong-un seems content to let Jong-chul live, and even gives him privileges like those trips abroad. The British agent who accompanied Jong-chul's London trip reported that the prince got out of the plane while having a hangover. When asked, he claimed to have a party last night that he could not refuse. Wow! Who else's party can't he refuse except an invitation from his little brother? In North Korea, any high-profile person traveling overseas is a big deal requiring the leader's personal approval. The regime's security apparatus orchestrated Jong-chul's London concert outings, providing escorts and booking him into a posh hotel, not staying in the embassy. That implies Kim Jong Un personally sanctioned his brother's little vacations and prepared a departure party for him. Why? Possibly as a reward for staying out of politics, or maybe simply because family is family, and even Kim Jong Un doesn't want to eliminate every relative. Being blood is indeed a double-edged sword. We must note what happened to the other brother, Kim Jong Nam, the eldest brother who was the heir apparent a long time ago. Jong Nam criticized the regime in exile, and in 2017 he was assassinated via a VX nerve agent attack in a Malaysian airport. That dramatic public murder was almost certainly ordered by Kim Jong Un, proving that even kinship can't save a perceived rival. He brings contrast to Kim Jong-chul, who has never voiced a political thought to anyone's knowledge. Jong-chul is so below the radar that North Korean state media rarely, if ever, mentions him. He's not even trotted out for ceremonial roles. As long as he remains a political ghost, he is allowed to exist. This rule, be blood, works only if executed with extreme caution, to be happy to live under the shadows of the throne. Show unwavering loyalty to your brother's rule by doing absolutely nothing that could be construed as ambition. By doing so, you become useful in a strange way. You're the living proof that Kim Jong Un isn't a monster who slaughtered every family member. Hey, our leader still has a handsome sibling hanging around. You might even be the person he can have a normal conversation or share childhood memories with on rare occasions. Who else can Kim Jong Un reminisce about their father's quirks, their mother's cooking, summer playtime at the Kim exclusive Wonsan resorts, and all those high school dramas? Only a surviving sibling. So Jong-chul might fill that tiny role of confidant by default, the guy who won't betray him because, frankly, he is a Kim who has no interest in ruling. We shouldn't romanticize it too much. Kim Jong Un likely keeps Jong-chul on a tight leash. But within those bounds, Jong-chul seems to enjoy a comfortable life. Western media once speculated that North Korea even invited Eric Clapton to perform in Pyongyang as a bizarre diplomatic overture. Clapton never did so, but the mere invitation shows how having a rock nerd brother can influence even the hermit kingdom's cultural outreach. In a regime that normally bans Western music, being the leader's brother means you get to privately groove to Wonderful Tonight via your AirPods Max with no consequences. So, your final takeaway. For obvious reasons, this strategy isn't one you can just adopt unless you chose your parents very, very wisely. But it highlights a principle. The only person a dictator might trust, albeit grudgingly, is someone who shares his blood and has absolutely zero desire for his throne. If you find yourself in that position, your best move is to emulate Kim Jong-chul. Keep your head down, indulge harmless hobbies, and never, ever court the spotlight. Then, you transform from a potential threat to essentially furniture in the palace. Always there, part of the family decor, but not taken too seriously. We've seen 4 very different friendship formulas, each effective in its context. But be cautious. Becoming Kim Jong Un's best homie is not like becoming someone's college buddy or golf pal. It's more like being cast in a very high-stakes theatre production where the script can change at any moment and the director has a habit of eliminating characters who don't play their parts. In North Korea, every relationship is transactional and every friendship is theatrical. The supreme leader doesn't really have friends. He has allies, jesters, pets, tools, and tokens. Kenji Fujimoto was a foreign pet in Kim Jong-il's court, useful until he wasn't. Dennis Rodman was a tool for Kim Jong-un's PR, fun as long as he stayed on script. Jimmy Carter was an ally of convenience to Kim Il-sung, for a brief shining moment of détente. Kim Jong-chul remains a living token of family loyalty by being scrupulously unthreatening. In each case, the friendship had an expiration date or condition. Step outside the role, fail to be useful, say the wrong thing, show the wrong ambition, and the trapdoor opens beneath you. 1 minute you're juggling flaming bowling pins, dazzling the big man, and the next minute one of those knives is pointed at you. History is littered with fallen favorites of tyrants. One day you're the beloved jester, next day you're accused of treason for maybe clapping with insufficient enthusiasm. North Korea provides extreme examples. Kim Jong Un had his powerful uncle Jang Song-taek executed in 2013, despite Jang being basically the regime's number 2. All it took was a whiff of suspicion that Jang aspired to too much influence, and not even marriage into the Kim family could save him. Best homie today, traitor tomorrow, is a real dynamic under a dictator. So, what does it really mean to be Kim Jong Un's best friend? It means enjoying a dangerous privilege. You might get special perks, lavish feasts, yacht cruises, front row seats to missile tests, global notoriety, maybe even some influence in Pyongyang. But you also carry the target on your back that much closer to the center. In the kingdom of paranoia, the closer you are to the king, the hotter the spotlight of suspicion. The irony with Kim Jong Un is that he likely doesn't have any genuine friends at all. How can you, when you've been told since birth that you're a demigod and everyone around you trembles in your presence? That might be why he seeks out bizarre friendships like Rodman's in the first place. He's looking for something real in a world of fakes. But the tragedy is, he'll never quite get it. Even those who get close aren't equals and can't speak candidly to him. The House of Kim deals in loyalty tests and image management, not true camaraderie. So, how to become Kim Jong Un's best homie? The steps are now laid bare. Follow them at your own risk. If you succeed, you'll have a hell of a story, assuming you live to tell it.
사랑해